Habakkuk 2, verse 2. Then the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision, and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. We are a prophetic ministry in one way. One Way Global 7 Ministries. Over many years we've been putting out prophetic words on the internet. God gave us those words. He put them very strong in our hearts at the time, and we put them out there. They're always out there in the video, with publications and audio messages and so on. And that's what the Lord told us at the beginning, what is written here. Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, or put it on a billboard. But put it out there for people to read, because there are warnings in these prophetic words. And so we put these words out there, and we've left them out there. And up to this day, I think it was many years ago, there's still people still watching and reading and so on, listening to these words. But a time comes when what God has said will come to pass. Now, when we look into the Bible, we can see that some prophecies were made 1,000 years ago, they're still not come to pass. Jeremiah prophesied for 20-odd years before the Babylonian invasion, and they're mocking him, laughing at him, but it came to pass. The problem today is we're in an instant, we want it now society, and I'm afraid the church is like that in many cases. We hear a prophetic word, and just because it doesn't happen a day later or maybe a few weeks or months later, we just give up on it and think, oh, well, it was a false prophecy. But that's not the way it works with God. We need to understand prophecy. God does give prophets today in prophetic ministries, but for it to happen immediately after the prophetic word, although it can do, we know that, but there are certain ones that have to fit into God's perfect timing concerning the nations, and we have to wait for that. But when the time comes, it will happen precisely on time. Now, I've given words out about the Russian invasion of Israel because it's written in the Bible. It's quite clear. If we read Ezekiel, and if we read Zechariah and Ezekiel, we can read about it in there, and that's because it is written, it's definitely going to come to pass. But there's a timing to it, and God's got his time. But as we look at the situation now, in Russia with Putin and the sanctions on Russia and so on, we can see that the Russian people, as Putin, who is ex-KGB, is obviously, they're not going to surrender or submit to the Western nations. They feel Putin actually feels threatened as though the Western nations are imposing, even getting closer to Russia through Georgia and so on. And that's why there's all this contention in that area at this time. And it's getting very close to the Russian invasion of Israel, Russian and its allied nations. And there will be other nations that will come under the fire, including America, because remember, America's Israel's ally. And because America's Israel's ally, Russia have this in mind as well. And so that is very close. Matter of fact, we're on the edge of it, but something else has to happen first. And this hasn't happened yet. And we're in anticipation of this happening, because the Antichrist has got to appear on the world stage. We know he's about, we know he's living, we know he's active, we know he's got all the CV to fulfill the role of what is prophesied in the Bible, and to be the leader of the European superstate, but it hasn't actually happened yet. Europe is still muddling and getting all mixed up with who we should appoint as a leader and everything else. They've had this president, that president, a few presidents and everything else. What will happen in the European Union? I believe something's got to happen to bring about some form of crisis, some opening for them to say, well, look, even Merkel, the German president, will have to then submit, because they seem to control everything at the moment, Germany, will have to submit to this, and in the end just, throw the cards on the table and say, look, we've got to have somebody who knows what they're doing, who's got all the qualification to lead the European nation into being a real superpower. We need a leader that can represent us to all the nations of the earth. And that leader is about today, and I believe it's very soon now where they will appoint that leader. Something's got to happen for that leader to be in position, because the invasion of Israel from Russia has got to involve the European superstate with NATO and so on, and America and so on. It's not in place yet, but it's very close. So keep that in mind. And when these things come to pass, we will be playing back our videos again and again. We're saying, look, we said this many years ago, but this is going to happen. It's not far off. And the coming of the Lord isn't far off. It's all coming together now. It's all reaching the climax. Everything that's been prophesied about the nations now. It's very exciting days, but very troublesome days. We have to keep our eyes on Jesus. We have to keep in prayer. We have to keep in fellowship. We have to keep in the Word. We have to keep strong. We have to have the whole armour of God on. And to be strong and overcomers in these days, to see these things come to pass, and to be ready for the return of Jesus Christ to the earth, and the rapture of the church, for the church of Jesus Christ. We need to be watching and waiting. So thank you for listening today.